Well, to the story now, South Africa has moved up in the passport power rankings. The country is now ranked at number 51. This is up from 58 from last year. The Henley ranking groups countries by the visa-free access that their passports grant. So to explain this to us further, we're joined now by Henley SA Managing Partner Amanda Smit. Amanda, thank you so much for your time this morning. A very good morning to you. How significant is this jump from 58 to 51 on the passport ranking?
Good morning. Well, South Africa has actually secured only one new visa-free destination, which is access to Pakistan over the past quarter. However, it has risen in the ranking by 7 places, which is due to visa access changes higher up in the index, which has created new ties or places now held jointly by other nations that rank above it. So, for example, Bosnia and Herzegovina improved their score, which in turn improved their rank, which in turn created a tie with Micronesia. And the same also happened with Russia, which improved its score and thus tied with the Palau Islands. So when 2 countries holding 2 spots in the ranking become 2 countries holding 1 spot, the result is that everyone beneath them goes up in rank.
Well, then, Amanda, what's also been interesting is that the argument here is that since 2006, South Africa has not necessarily moved up very much in terms of the number of rankings. Does that mean that since 2006 we were not able to make compelling arguments for why is it that we need visa-free status in more countries? And what impact does that have?
Yeah, unfortunately, South Africans can still only access visa-free destinations amounting to 104. And those, unfortunately, does not include, the popular tourist and business destinations such as the United States, the Schengen areas, or the UK, for example. So when we look at, all the data, and as we've entered 2022, there's been an incredible gap in terms of global mobility worldwide. So if, we look at the mobility gap, for example, since the inception of the index 17 years ago, without taking evolving and temporary COVID-related restrictions into account, passport holders of the 2 top Asian nations can now enter 192 destinations around the world without a visa, which is 166 more than those from Afghanistan, for example.
Sure. But then in that sense, though, if we have to make a comparative analysis when it comes to, for example, other SADC countries, the countries such as Botswana are leading the pack or ahead when it comes to being able to get more visa-free access as opposed to South Africa in that time. But just explain to us in terms of exactly what's the problem here? What is the government doing right, or what is the government doing incorrectly that allows us not to even move up when it comes to the visa status? Is it the state of our country? Is it around resourcing? Is it around security? What is the issue?
Yes, so I think before I can explain that, maybe we just need to dive in a little bit deeper. And if we look at international mobility, between wealthier countries and poorer countries, that was brought into sharp focus late last year with the arrival of highly infectious Omicron variant, which was then met with a raft of punitive restrictions against mainly African countries that the UN Secretary General described as akin to almost travel apartheid. And this despite the fact that over the past decade and a half, overall travel freedom levels have expanded significantly. There's quite a big gap between wealthier countries as opposed to your poorer countries that have less travel freedom. So obviously for South Africa to deepen their travel freedom or their mobility, they need to of course be able to tie visa-free arrangements with countries such as Europe, for example.
Sure. And then in that instance, though, in terms of the way forward, are you saying that they need to actually tie up their partnerships? But in terms of just a practical way forward, where does the government start? Because I tell you one thing, Amanda, many of us want to be traveling and many of us don't want to actually have to apply for visas, which, by the way, is a very expensive exercise, as many of us would know, and actually have the opportunity to travel visa-free. So where do we start?
The best way would be, of course, for South Africa to tie visa-free treaties with countries, really. It's nothing to do with what South Africa can or cannot do. It really is with regards to trade and with regards to being able to allow not only freedom of movement of goods, but also freedom of movement of people.
Amanda, we'll have to leave it there for this morning. Thank you very much for your time. Amanda Smit there is from Henley and Partners of South Africa, just giving us the latest.